Hi and welcome to Aussie Kicks. On today's show, well, it's just an update on the Astute TD2 by Tamiya. Tamiya have just released an updated video on the chassis and we got to dive inside and have a good look round. So I've made some notes to go over a few things that I noted, and also I've taken a load of screenshots, so I'll be cycling them as I go through them. They're in no particular order, just what I scribbled down as I was watching the live feed. So the shocks look standard on the rear. The fronts, we're not sure whether these are special edition ones or they've been used from something else. They looked very short. One thing that's definitely different is that the designer, Nezu-san, has actually done the springs in red, which is a bit of a novelty, but we're not sure if the front ones are anything special or just for that chassis, or they've come from something else. If you know, comment below, let me know what you think. Now, I do like the front rims. They look really nice. Obviously, they're a lot thinner. Apparently, they're from the DT03, but I haven't checked yet. The TD4 chassis is the exact same chassis as the TD2. It's basically the front bulkhead and under bumper section that is different. So, obviously, a lot of us thought that the TD4, with those little battery covers, that it was very strange. But obviously, from the beginning, when they first developed the TD4, they knew they were going to bring out the TD2. So, whether you can actually change your TD4 to run a battery across the chassis, I honestly don't know. Probably, I think the biggest issue you're going to have is if you look at the Astute body, there's actual side pods to give more room for the battery as it runs across the chassis, whereas the Super Avante doesn't. So they did actually put the Astute body on the Super Avante and it almost fits. So whether it could be modified and cut out slightly differently to make it fit, that might be something people start to do if they want to run the battery across. Now, obviously, the Astute has the battery across the rear part of the car because it's rear-wheel drive, so to try and get as much of the weight over the rear wheels, where obviously the Super Avante, sorry, is four-wheel drive, so it's trying to distribute the weight a bit more evenly. The rear of the car looks identical to the Super Avante, so there doesn't look to be any changes there. And you can understand, obviously, if they're developing a whole new chassis, trying to keep as many parts the same as possible obviously keeps the cost down. Good news is that it has a slipper clutch, which is exactly the same as the Super Avante, so you'll be able to buy that part and just drop it straight in when the Astute comes out. As like the Super Avante, turnbuckles all over the car, front and rear, so you will be able to dial in the toe-in, camber and all that as normal. If we take a look at the vintage Astute, there is certain key elements that have been put across to the Astute. The side pod here is actually still in it, but it's a lot smaller aspect, and the two humps that you see on this part here are actually represented in the new car as well as the awesome rear spoiler lettering has been migrated into the new one. Now, the rear spoiler on the Astute is different to the Super Avante. It looks a lot larger. I did think maybe it was just cut slightly differently, but if you look at it, it does look much higher where the lip is. Now, it could be that you can cut it slightly differently, but it did look very different to me. So it looks like we'll just have to wait and find out. On the new Astute, you notice that the designer has left clear side pods so that you can actually see the lay down shocks. Now, whether you want to keep those or not will be down to your own personal choice, but it's a nice touch, and you can see the thinking of trying to show the suspension as you can see in the Super Avante, where they have the window. He's kept the sides three to be like little windows. Out of the two, which one would you like to have? Comment below, let me know. I will get both on the show, and I like the way that they're kind of together as a sort of family. So whether we'll see an additional buggy from them, I honestly don't know, but it's great that you've got the offering of a four-wheel drive and a two-wheel drive in this new chassis. Now, one thing we need to talk about, which is a little bit of a downer, is being that there is now a TD2 Astute, what's the chances of us seeing a Riri Astute? And honestly, I think they've got very low. Now, never say never with Tamiya, but I don't see why they would bring out a Riri of the original Astute when they now have the TD2 Astute, especially as we also have the Super Astute that came out as a Riri. So if you're after one of these, I suggest you grab it now rather than later, as prices will only go up a lot. Anyway, thanks very much. That's just a quick look at the new TD2 Astute. I will be getting one on the show like the Super Avante, which should be dropping any day now.